and welcome to Chapter 4 of Creativity in Home Education. Today's chapter is called You Gotta Say No in Order to Say Yes. So I talked a little bit in the last chapter about margin, leaving space in your life. But this principle really goes so far beyond that, and so I wanted to make sure and address it. Basically, the idea behind it is there are opportunities all around us. And we live in a culture that is driven by those opportunities, and we're sort of preyed upon as parents, thinking that we're ruining our kids if we deny them any of the experiences that are available to them. And while we do want to provide every opportunity possible for our children, we have to be the ones to recognize that we can't say no, that we can't say yes to everything. So there are things that we have to say no to in order to say yes to the things that are the most important. We did touch on this in the last chapter, but I wanted to mention one of the ways in which this played out practically in our home. So in our home, I love the holiday season. I love when it starts to get cold and crisp in the morning. I love when it's so cold that you can have a fire in the fireplace. I love drinking warm drinks. I love getting to go look at twinkly lights. I love making cookies. I love, baking and taking things to neighbors and all kinds of fun things. I love stories that are, Christmas stories and Thanksgiving stories and holiday books that just kind of leave the normal and just feel magical. And so I actually had a friend who gave me this idea early on. And so in our home, we do holiday school. So holiday school means that from the week prior to Thanksgiving, so that week before Thanksgiving, all the way to the 1st of January, we depart from our normal school routine and we do holiday school. And for our kids, it's something that they look forward to. It means that they're going to get to take a break from some of their things. We lower things like we only do math maybe twice a week just to keep them in the rhythm and the habit so they don't forget everything. But we spend that time doing really fun things. And so we have a whole bin of Christmas books that only come out during that time of year. We have certain projects and things. One year we did a Lord of the Rings marathon, which is the older kids, but the marathon was for the older kids, but we had special meals centered around that. So we did, Shire French toast and, something with potatoes, and we did Lembish bread for, we had all these things that it was a lot of work, but at the same time, it was very memorable for the kids. And so we would watch a movie and then have a special meal. So all the kids got to partake in the special meal, and then the older kids got to watch the movies. And so in that way, it was something that was so memorable and so fun. And usually around the holidays, we always center our time around maybe a book series that we're reading, or like I said, fun projects like even making cookies or just getting out of the house more, spending time with friends as they're available. And so it's a time of year that we all look forward to, and it usually comes at a time where we all just need a break anyway. And so I just want to, again, just reiterate that in order to have that space for creativity, it means that you have to say no to some things. And this is very hard to do. Sometimes we see saying no in such a harsh light, but I wanted to just share a story with our oldest son. Music lessons was something that I always longed to provide for our children. I wanted to do piano lessons like I did when I was a child, and then there was some interest in violin or guitar or different things, and I really longed to provide those opportunities. But for us as a large family, especially living in California, we just didn't have the financial resources to make those things happen. Now, that could have burdened me and weighed me down, but God was gracious, and I just felt a resolve, like, well, it's just not something we can do right now, maybe in the future. And so our oldest son was so motivated. He wanted to play those instruments, and so he taught himself how to play the piano, how to play the violin. He was able to do some guitar lessons, maybe just a few, There was a class at the local community center that was much more affordable, so we were able to do a few lessons. But mostly he taught himself, and in that, it was such an amazing accomplishment, especially with the violin and the piano. Those are hard instruments. And not only did he teach himself how to play at such a really remarkable level, but he also then was able to teach himself how to compose music. And so in that, the accomplishment in the end was far greater than if we had been able to provide lessons for him the whole time. So by staying within our margins or within the boundaries of what our family can do and leaving room for other things, God then was at work in our weakness and in our lack to produce something that would not have been possible. So in this, I'm just trying to encourage you that saying no isn't always a bad thing. Just make sure that you're saying no for the right reasons, that it's for protection, that it's for the good of your family, that it's for the purpose of staying within your resources and within a way of living that leaves margin for other things. Because even though it's hard to say no as a parent, it gives room for God to work. It gives room for God to surprise us. Sometimes it's really hard to say no to art lessons or to music or to dance lessons. But in that, God is always at work. So when I did say no, it was always, first of all, because I had to, or because I was prioritizing something else. And in that, I also brought it before the Lord. I would ask the Lord, is there another way to meet this? Is there another way that you can give my child this longing of their heart? And God has always been faithful. And in fact, he's gone so far beyond what I asked or imagined that I'm really grateful that we had to say no in the beginning, because God's yes was much better than what I had in mind. So for this chapter, I want you to just look at your life and see if there's things that are creating chaos rather than peace, that are contributing to the feeling of being hurried and always driven rather than a feeling of being at peace and at rest. And I'm not saying that you can't be busy. I'm not saying that you can't live a full life. I'm just saying that as you honor the constraints and the limitations of your own self and of your family, you will find more space for creativity to grow and to thrive. And that's what I want for you.